Good evening. Welcome to the December 16th Timberlane Regional School District Budget Committee meeting. It is 7:35. Jeff, can you do the roll call?
I would be happy to. Alan David.
Here.
Phil Sherwood.
Here.
Peter Below.
I'm here.
Ryan Boyle.
Here.
Todd McCormick.
Here.
Mike Mascola.
Here.
Julie Hammond. Not here.
She'll be late, but
She'll be late. Okay. John
Here.
Hughes is here. David Gurns, not present. And Kathy Gorman, not present.
correct.
Very good.
All right, if you can all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, approval of the minutes from November 14th and 12th. You don't have December 12th or the 14th with us?
We don't know. I've been
Okay.
chopping the budget.
Got it. So we have no meeting minutes. Correspondence, I didn't see any, Jeff.
I don't think I had any.
Okay. Delegations and individuals, I see none. Admin report. You want to go forward?
Not much has changed, but I don't know if you want to bring it up under committees. We can do that as well. The CIP, that's all.
Okay. If I do reports of committees, budget committee members, so
So,
John and Brian.
yeah, I mean, we just had the CIP meeting. We went back through it, made some changes, and the school board has still committed to doing projects that were in the CIP for next year, and they moved them to this year. Roughly $530,000 worth is gonna get done hopefully this year. In the end, the CIP, which I believe you just all got a copy of.
Everyone should have a copy of that, and I'll
Yeah.
note, John, that is on the schedule. What if the board moved up to this year, you can see in a column this year to follow what John said.
Yeah, so columns were added. CIP request total without the Ken Henderson's technology stuff in there is the 1.537. So we've kind of moved stuff around. There was some questioning on validity of some of the numbers that are in there. Some of them are, that we moved out were because the numbers were from plans from 10 years ago. So Gary's gonna, and Gary's just coming on, he's gonna have to be looking at some of those things, so. So we kind of moved in what we think are priorities with numbers that were, more accurate, and higher priority things that were out there. So you have that CIP plan in front of you. You can see with the 2021 line, and then also the line, the SB Prop 1920 is what's going to be done this year, hopefully.
Oh, gotcha.
School board proposed.
Yep. So that's the school.
So everything in green is a go?
No. Just
Don't
look
mind
at
the
the
colors.
columns.
Colors are irrelevant.
Colors are relevant,
Really
okay.
just want to focus on the columns.
What's
All right.
BIT? I'm sorry.
Business and IT.
So that's all Ken's technology stuff,
Okay.
which is in his budget that he presented to us.
Yep. Yep.
So it's already in there.
So what's under school board proposed for 1920, they're gonna do this 530K this school year, you're saying, right?
Correct.
532. Pardon me?
The current year money.
Current year money. And then next year, which is a budget we're working on, we've got 1.537.
That'll come out of those improvement line.
Well, plus the BIT stuff.
But that's already in the budget. This is stuff that's coming out of the improvement line.
Okay.
That,
But if I add those two together, it still is 1.799.
right. And a lot of Ken's stuff are repetitive, if you look in there, because he's got it going, it's a multi-year plan.
Are the windows on here?
Nope.
No, the windows,
Well, they are, but not
Yeah,
Put it on a year.
so,
Year two?
Yep.
yeah.
Oh, there it is, top of the page,
So
second
that came
page.
up to about 880.
79.
Yeah, roughly 880,000.
Yep.
But it wasn't, comprehensive as much. So we want Gary to take a look at that whole thing
Okay,
of the window systems and get more bids, because that was based off of one bid. So,
got it.
and it wasn't, more like a verbal.
Elevator in Pollard next year.
All right, so that's pretty much the highlight from the CIP meeting that took place at 6.
Yep.
Brian, do you have any more?
I think you did a good job, John.
All right, so that's the
actually,
number we
if-
focus on it.
And we
roughly.
haven't even met the school board since that meeting, so.
Right.
Yeah.
So now if I point to 8B, school board rep,
Yeah,
you probably don't have a lot of new news.
I was at the same meeting John was in. Very well
Okay.
done.
So with this information, I want to jump into new business, because this is where we're going to spend the majority of our time,
Yep.
which is the review of the consolidated budget. So Jeff, you've handed us now this new sheet, and you're pulled off probably about 15 different items. Do you want to go through that with us?
Sure. So the sheet in front of you, I took a look at the budget where we left it on the 12th, which was at $75,088,628. So I've gone through and taken a look at some of the additional requests that have been made, and you can see that the first several lines are equipment. The first line, $3,000 removed for replacement equipment at Pollard. This takes care of, leaves a little more than half of their request. Middle school replacement furniture, that's actually included now in the CIP. High school furniture replacement, that's just a rationalization. They've asked for quite a bit in that line, so we'll probably figure out how to do it with 15,000 less. So we had a, when I've been able to go through, I've been able to go through and look at where we're actually at. The budget itself was put together so early in the season in terms of the salaries and that sort of thing, so I've been able to go through and take a look where we're at. So you'll see that the 1,124.10 functions have been, I've removed some salaries from there, and I have another section where that is as well. 2410-733, these are the, they were in principal's office, but those are the air conditioning, units which are requested for, I believe, the top floor. 2620, so you see the custodial admin salaries, and so we have an adjustment on those lines based on where we are, essentially based on hiring. And the 2620-430, maintenance and repair, so that's another line that we use for maintenance and repair, where we have so much going into the 4,200 and 4,600 accounts. I would assume that some of the projects we would absorb in that maintenance and repair account would now be absorbed in those other accounts. The 2620-624, that's fuel oil for the district. That's reduced 47,470. When that was put together, as was the case with a lot of the initial estimates, it was much earlier in the season, so this has allowed me to go back and take another look at where we are, what our needs are for next year based on where we are in the current year. The next lines are health insurance, a little bit of a true-up, so I just took one, essentially what would be one potential policy off. FICA, it's a true-up, retirement true-up based on the salaries. So the included in the 4,200 were some requested items for field seating, main campus, and the main campus field safety netting, which I think we had talked about at the last, well, it's one of the meetings. Angela, I think, had presented it. So those are in the 4,200 account. So if they can be captured somewhere else, they can be picked up back into the budget again. And if not, if we can find the money somewhere else for them, great. So that brings the budget down to $74,543,137. Our target was $74,120,557, which was $1.5 million above the default budget, which leaves a balance remaining of $422,580. But the reason I've left that on there and in that way is if you look at the CIP schedule, really I had looked at and included 500,000 in sites just as a placeholder and $1.5 million in our general building improvement or building improvement line, 4,600. So between the two of those, it was $2 million, and I'm looking at sort of the non-BIT requests.
Just tell us what page, you're on the very end?
Last page.
Last
Yep,
page.
last page of the CIP plan. It's really around the $1.5 million range. So I didn't cut anything from those two lines, but as a general proposition, I've got extra money there that's not captured in a CIP, right, as of right now. That make sense?
No, can you repeat that again to me?
Okay, so in the budget itself, that's the 75 million that we were looking at, I included just two big lines to account for the 2 million that we were talking about. I included 500,000 in sites and 1.5 in
Right.
building and maintenance,
Okay.
building improvement line. So that totals 2 million.
Correct.
So you'll see here the non-BIT requests are at 1,537,000.
Right.
So I've got 2 million in that account right now, or in those accounts between the two, a little under 2 million between those two, looking at requests in the $1.5 million range, 1.6. So that right there is about 400,000.
So you're suggesting we could bring for instance, the 4,600 line down by 400,000? Or split it between the two lines?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And what I would do is take a look at where this plan is at right now, see what falls under sites, see what falls under building improvements and, you know, make it match more exactly.
Well, of course, at the end of the day, those are both,
Capital.
they're both capital, and the school board can redistribute how they wish at the end of the day. Correct, Brian?
Yeah, I hear you, but, are you because right now in the 72.6, that's the default, 72.6 and change, is 500
Correct.
in there. And so that's what you're saying, that the difference of the math is that, well, that's 422 of the 500, that's how you're going, looking at this?
No, what I'm saying in the operating budget, we have,
I know 500 and a million five.
yep,
So again, let's just play this out. So you go into the voting booth, and your proposed would be 74.5.
well, no, I don't think the proposal would be that. I think we would be looking, this committee would be looking at, I would assume, to take down perhaps those facilities accounts, those,
For instance, I'm looking at making a proposal to take down between the two facilities accounts, grounds and facilities, 400,000 between them.
Okay.
I was asked not to touch those lines, so I'm bringing it back to the committee.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
That's cool.
So take out those two lines. One was projects, one was
Yeah.
facilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With
Take
a
'em-
total of about 400 in there.
What?
How much was in those two accounts?
Oh, 1.5 million
2 million.
Yeah.
and half a million. Okay, look
Yeah, it
at,
was the 500,000 was what I'm talking about. Yeah.
well, I'm just saying, just between those two
Yeah,
lines,
yeah.
it's 2 million. I'm saying, and I don't care what the split is, because
Yeah.
both is capital, both are capital.
Right.
So just decrease it by a total of 400,000, down to 1.6.
Okay.
That make sense? You still have you still have enough for CIP, for what they were looking for.
It funds CIP, yeah.
Yes, you have enough, the 1.5 million, you have enough for what we were able to put together in our two quick CIP meetings, which are less than a week apart.
I hear you.
Okay, and
Would you feel better if it was like
But-
300,000
well-
down instead of 4, so you had 100,000
well,
buffer in there?
Well, that's, my thoughts are that like as John mentioned earlier, that we were able to capture a lot of the projects, make sure we spend them this year, out of this year's money. But we're not looking at unknowns, which you gotta, you gotta figure that there should be some kind of unknowns.
Unknowns that would normally be covered under repair and maintenance.
Yeah,
For supports,
Right.
for site improvement.
right.
So when you're looking at the 500,000 that's in the line, they're carrying over 532 on paper right now and hoping that those numbers will come down to actuals, under, to the 500. So there's still actually more than what is being carried over to this year than is actually in there to be spent. So like, there's $225,000 for boilers, we're hoping that that's less than the 225,
Yeah, but even, John, even as we're here before, just a week or two before the mid-year point,
Yeah.
you know? So we blew through projects to finish out the year of our capital money. But obviously, if something happens, if a month from now and Gary Parrish shows, no, this is what happened, well, obviously, something does, you will fix something that's broken and
Right.
you'd put something else off.
Yeah,
That's all.
yeah. It depends on when you decide to do those things, if you do them now or at the end of the year.
So instead of say, my initial idea of 400,000 down, if we leave another 100,000 in there as buffer for the I don't knows, because you don't know, does that make people feel more comfy? So only decrease 300,000 on that line, or between those two lines.
Yeah,
Also, I was trying to decipher what Brian's concerns were.
my concerns, Phil, it's just basically, my overall, well, not just my, I think a lot of people's overall goal was to put as much money as you can into the buildings. So the goal was to put approximately $2 million a year into the buildings for the next 5 years. Now, right now, you're at this is a $1.5 million
And five.
So that's your 2 million, that math works. And now I just want to get as close as I can to that and make sure it's protected, so when the voter, I'm trying to keep that number as close as I can.
Yeah,
So people will vote for the proposed budget
Well-
and not the default budget.
Well, in that case, would you mind, like, backing away from this for a moment and looking at something else?
I'm
That
all ears.
Might add 100,000 to the possibilities for the buildings?
All right, let me
I've
do
got a
this.
couple ideas.
Hold on. I just want to get Alan, he's
Well,
patient.
my question is, I mean, we're off at this number based on Brian's suggestion, or Brian's from the school board. But I'm still wrestling with that number because I don't understand how we got so big. When last year we had 4 million in surplus on a $73 million budget. We had 4 million in surplus.
No, it was on the budget before that. The surplus
Right,
in
you're-
June
you're
was
right.
on the.
You're right, okay.
The default from
I
the year before.
apologize, correct.
So it
Well,
was
so we
on-
had a $4 million budget. I just like to, and we had an operating budget last year of 68 million with that 4 million. So I just like, why cannot we just back up, add the drivers that we need? So we have the teachers, we have the CIP, and we have the special ed. And then, why are we going top down? I don't get it. That's what I'm having a problem. I'm wrestling with the numbers, that's all.
No, because what you're referring to, you're backing into the default.
Right. Well,
Okay, well,
correct.
Okay, wait a minute,
But-
so let me finish.
Yes, sir.
So that default is at 72.6,
Correct.
and there's only 500 in there for capital.
So you guys put no capital in there at all?
No,
500, there's
I
500.
know, I'm sorry, I apologize. The capital, it's always been, that's all you can't
They can't.
put any extra.
Yeah, right, and someone theoretically could challenge that 500. But right now, there's 500 in the 72.6.
Okay.
So indirectly, what you just described is another way.
So
That's a
basically-
layman quick version of a default,
Get
what
to where
you're
you're
saying,
at.
you know.
But, just so I can, when I go home at night, I like to sleep like
That's good.
very comfortably, so I know all the math.
Yeah, sleeping is good.
So you're basically telling me that the drivers, we got the teacher contract, and we have this, and we have the special ed. Special ed was 1.1,
Whatever it was, all the contractual stuff, yeah,
and then the contractual stuff for the teachers.
yeah,
Well, and the TSSU, there was an increase on them.
yeah, yeah. Transportation, there was all these different increases, yeah.
So I wish I was part of the bottom up, so I could feel better about it. Picking a number and coming down is really not like how I like to build a budget, What the actual costs are, what the drivers are, and what we want to accomplish is what we should be looking at. If you're telling me that number is a 72.5, is that what?
72.6.
72.6.
And change,
Yeah,
yeah.
72.6, 25.57, okay. So, we gotta work from there, is what we have to do. Because,
I have no confidence in this budget. Every year, it's every year, we're going, well, we did a bottom down budget before, and we ended up with $4 million. I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, why did we spend the money that we had allocated before? Why do we have such a reserve? It makes no sense. And for us to be paying extra tax dollars to have reserves of that much doesn't make any sense. I don't think we're doing our job.
Well, that was on the default budget.
Yeah, but we had a reserve.
But the surplus was
Surplus, we had
a result of the year that they were spending the default budget from the year before that. The budget that we created last year is what
Yes,
we're
it was
operating in
operating.
now.
But no, I actually created that budget too. I was there
Yeah.
when we did that budget.
But that budget failed.
No, listen to me. When we passed, was not supposed to have a surplus of $4 million.
Correct.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. And we've been told, oh, this is the numbers, these are the drivers, this is that. And I'm a nice guy. I want to believe everything you say. But what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing are two different things. So if we can't be honest with it, what's the point? I mean, I'm just trying to be honest. I'm not saying this is not the right way to go. I just want to be convinced it's the right way to go.
Well,
I'm not convinced, but
then I have a question for Jeff. Jeff, a year and a couple months ago, actually less than a year ago, we were looking and we asked you what the surplus was kind of looking like it might be in June. And I believe we were talking around maybe $1 million, a little over $1 million, but then it ended up being 4 times that. Maybe you could explain how that happened.
A little bit better, well, yeah, so.
Well, yeah, go ahead. Well, no,
Let Jeff have the
go ahead.
floor,
Go ahead.
just to go to that.
So a couple big drivers behind surplus really any year, and it's just something that we're a very large employer. And so one of our, I think, I don't say an area for surplus, but when you think about it this way, we always have a number of positions open, a significant number of positions, sometimes significant, but a number of positions open. And if you add those positions up, right, they're budgeted, they're supposed to be there, and they're not, and you add those positions up for the time that they're open, so if I have, let's say, 4 positions open for teachers every year, and I have on and on, so if you look almost any time and you look at what we have posted, and you may see 4 teachers listed, right? So it's not the same teachers, we'll hire, and then we'll have another opening, we'll hire. So it's on average 4 teachers every year. And if it were on average, I don't know, 10 to 12 para positions every year, maybe it's not that many. Maybe it's less at the beginning of the year and all that. But if you were to look, if it's 8 positions annualized, run those numbers. It's not the same 8 paras. It's not the same 8 para positions. We have some come. We have
Just
some
on
go.
average, how many are open? Yeah.
It's just on average. But the only problem is I've got a budget is if the folks are going to be here all year, because that's what I expect. I expect that the people are going to be here all year. So we end up with you end up with some surplus there. And in that default year, because it was so tenuous, we actually held back on hiring on a lot of those positions until midway through the year, at which point I fully expected that we would then be filling those positions. And at that point, we're in a bad hiring cycle and just weren't able to fill what we needed to fill. And I think that was a big driver behind it. A big difference, and we had a very good year, I believe, as far as special education goes compared to how we've been in other years. This year, I believe we have 9, what would be the equivalent of 9 additional outside placements. And this is how flexible, how pliable this is. We just had 1 today. So at the end of the day, you're talking about, we're under budgeted in the current year for special education, and we went on where we were in that year that we brought back the $4 million.
Right.
We don't know when we're going to get additional students just coming into the district. We also typically have an effect of a net effect. So some will move in, some will move out. That net effect hasn't worked out in the current year. So our expenses are much higher, where in the year before that, we had a lot less burden, let's just say, on that special education budget. And that's just something you can't necessarily predict, because going on the averages, I know we typically have more placements, for example, than we had in that year. I'm just waiting for them to, materialize. And they materialized this year when we had a lower budget number. So we're over in that line, maybe 400,000.
Right.
Alone. So outside tuitions and all that. So really, those are just some of the areas of drivers of things that happen. This isn't a $4 million surplus year only. It was particularly pronounced in that year, but this is almost any year when you look at it. But can we go in and remove money from salaries, let's say, in anticipation of having 2 positions open all year or 8 para positions open all year.
But did those,
If I've got the positions, I've got to fund them.
so did all those salaries that were, all those positions that we're talking about, that's $3 million roughly?
Well, I don't think that would be I don't think that would be it. We had that in a bunch of different pockets, if you will, throughout. It wasn't just in the 1,100. If you look at 1,100, 1,200.
Which are salaries.
Yeah.
Let's ask it this way. If you had filled every one of those positions from the start of the year to the end of the school year,
What
in
would
the
our
year that we
surplus
were in the default, do you think we would have been closer to more like a $1 million surplus as opposed to a $4 million surplus?
Yes, but I don't know that would have been necessarily all the positions all
Not
year.
all, but we would have been closer.
Correct. And let's not forget what goes along with those positions, which is often
Benefits and-
insurance benefits and that sort of thing as well. So
Does
it's not
that
just
answer
the
your
position.
question,
It
Ellen?
does and it doesn't. Because the cynical in me is that, I don't know, if God knows why we're padding. We could actually pad a budget by actually putting in more line items for jobs that are never gonna materialize, just to get a bigger budget.
But they didn't spend it.
But you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They could, as an administration, they could say, okay, let's put this here, put that there, we can puff our numbers up there. And but that doesn't matter. I wanna make sure the school runs and I wanna get the CIP done right, but I don't wanna spend an extra $2 million in taxes to people.
Yeah.
We don't have to.
And I don't
That's
either,
what I'm
Al.
saying.
I don't either,
I'm not
but-
trying to, it's not an argument or a fight. I just wanna, you know what I mean? I wanna look at these numbers so we get it right,
I do too.
that's all.
I do too. And but wouldn't it have
And
been worse if
the
they
number's
spent the
40
$4 million?
If the number's,
Yeah,
if
they
the
didn't
number's
spend it.
74,120, I'm behind it 100%.
Yeah. Wouldn't it have been worse if they'd have spent the money? And freed up all that money from all the unfilled positions and then found ways to spend it so that we went
Well,
right
it'd be
to
nice
the
if they
wire.
sent on the CIP, that would have been great, I would have been celebrating.
I think
Well-
that would have been problematic because it was
Yeah, it can.
essentially collected,
Because of how it's
right?
collected.
I mean, it wasn't,
Unless something-
and it was the default year,
Yeah,
so they couldn't spend it.
All right, here's what I'd like to do. So
did spend it.
you got some basic understanding of where we did that. I would like to talk a little bit about the presentation we saw at our last meeting. Susan Rassico, she talked about special ed. So one of the programs had a tag on it of, what was it, 750?
750-ish,
750-ish.
the elementary school program.
I don't, and I think there may have been, well, go ahead, but I think there may have been, when I was listening to it, I talked to Susan about it, I said, I don't think it was a very, I don't want to say clean conversation, I don't think it was a very clear conversation. So,
Clear meaning what?
Sorry?
Go ahead, explain.
So there was a student services budget
Right.
and the special education budget.
This is student services, I think.
And the student services was up 750,000 in tuitions. In that tuitions line. So
Okay.
just, we'll handle that in one silo, one bucket. That 750,000 that's there speaks to the 9 placements we've had, 9 additional placements we've had, plus some additional.
Right, these are outsourced, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yep, okay.
Not outsourced, outplaced.
Outplaced, I'm sorry.
So that speaks to that alone. That's one silo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there's gonna be an upside to that. I'm hoping for some net recovery on that, meaning that we'll have some additional students, maybe
Wait,
some.
let me back up.
we'll lose
What do you
some. But
mean
that
net
750
recovery?
Well, and net recovery, not in the sense that, 750 that we have is based on projecting what we have sort of going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we haven't had that.
So it was up 830, right? Not 750, it was up 830,000.
It was, but it was just that one line. If you
Yep.
look at just the tuitions, I think it was up
Oh,
750.
gotcha. Yep.
Yeah, and I say net recovery, meaning that we typically don't just have, we might have 4 students come in and 2 students move out. Now we're having 9 move in. So that's
Right.
just on tuitions.
Got it.
The other line was, I believe, up
336,800,
And that was for?
special education,
So that was the program
Compass.
Compass. A portion of that is for Compass, which addresses the students that are in district. And
Is that getting more interventionists? Is that,
it is, and it's a consolidated approach, right?
which I do know we need?
So when we look at that, I think when we look at that, that's a multi-year program. And so the total cost of that had come up at 750, but that's over the course of several years. So that's why I said I don't think that the 750 is that line that you see. That line that you see is tuitions. The cost for the year,
No, I got that. That 750 was for a few students that she had mentioned.
The 750 is for,
They're placed out of district.
That are actually placed
for
out of
safety.
Yes, no, I get it.
Oh, okay.
For the few students that are placed out of the district.
yep,
But if they stayed out of district, just status quo,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't have that 750 line. Is that correct?
That's the cost for us sending them out of the district.
that's right.
As long as they stay in the district, that's what it's gonna cost us.
See, I guess I understood it, I was asking questions around, and it kind of seemed like it came down to, and I reached out to some other people afterwards to clarify it, and it seemed correct, that this 750 is basically the net of six, I think it's like 6 elementary school kids who are, what's the term? Outplaced? Okay, outplaced now, that they want to bring back in, have personal one-on-one people with them, plus someone else to work with parents or guardians, whoever, right? Okay, and the net of reducing the outplacement
The staff to.
and
keep them
staffing
one-on-ones.
up was 750.
That's, I think that was a bit confusing.
That's what I understand.
That to bring those, and I believe it's gonna be 4 students, the program could probably handle more, but for right now, to bring the 4 in, that's on the special education side, and that's tied up in that 330. That $380 or $330,000 increase on the special education side.
Right.
That Compass program that we're talking about is not caught up in that 750,000
Right.
at all.
But,
Separate.
but when we heard the presentation last week, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't I hear Susan say that it's going to handle about 6, 7, 8 students?
Six
Okay.
RBTs, right?
Yeah, about. So I don't want to get mixed up at 6, 7, or 8.
And then a
It's-
half of FTE for a behaviorist and a half an FTE for a social,
So I'm just looking at a certain amount of money for this quantity of students. It seems rather large.
so according to her, she said that's the cost of the program, plus the behaviorist, plus the, well, I wrote over here 5 students, so
Is
it's
that
either
the
6 or 5.
Is that the 380 or is that the 750?
That's
That's
a
the
750.
750 really is just, it's just tuition. Those are the students that we have out, that we are not gonna be able to take back in.
So,
And I think that's what was
so
confusing.
what you're saying is, so I guess from what I've seen, and this is a rough number because it varies a lot, it's around, thumb in the air, it's about $100,000 a year to tuition one student out. So that 750 would imply that we've got 7 or 8 additional students.
Correct.
Not a total of 7 or 8 students, but beyond what
Correct.
is this year,
Incremental.
it's an incremental.
It's not we've sent 4 additional students out and we've got 2 who've moved out. This is an increment, this is a net increase or a total increase of
That was
9.
not clear.
I didn't think that it was, and I said, maybe I'm misperceiving that conversation that we had, or that the board had with Susan. So I talked to Susan more about that, and I said, I just want to be clear. I said, this is the way that I think it came across.
So that's even a net of those 4 elementaries coming back in for the 336
Correct,
on the special ed line.
correct. I mean, this year, so far, it will be like at least 400,000 as of right now over our budget number for that line, for that tuition line. So we're just rolling that forward, and we're adding to it because we still have students coming in.
And that line does trend up every year, going back 3 years.
That makes more sense, although it's just as scary at the same time.
But I'm telling you, I'm going to go back to what unless my memory's not serving me right, I thought I heard, and I believe, Peter, you may have asked a question to her, and that was, if we don't move these students back to Timberlane, we wouldn't have this expense. That didn't imply to me it was about 7 new students. Implied to me is what we had already.
Yeah.
I think if you didn't move the students back, it's not the 750, it's that 330 that you wouldn't have. That's on the special ed side.
No, I get what you're saying. I'm just telling you what I heard on the 12th.
I didn't think it was a very, and I thought it was just me, but I didn't think it was a very crisp discussion relative to what the actual situation of the budget is.
I think
I don't
that
know why.
the-
I think it got confused at some
At the
point.
risk of sounding competent, I think the questions were quite crisp. but the answers weren't crisp.
I'm not sure if there was some, as the superintendent would say, some, getting the peanut butter and the chocolate and chocolate my peanut butter. It just seemed like there were two different areas, two different questions. And I think that it's very easy to get a little bit, I don't want to say confused, but to take the question in the wrong way. So the total program cost for that if it were multi-year program, it could be $750, but that's not the $750 that's in tuitions. Separate matter entirely.
Okay.
And I did confirm with Susan. I said, Susan, let me just step back. I want to take a look at that 750 line, and just for my satisfaction, please go in and confirm that 750 increase on the student services line for tuitions are all just in relation to outplaced students.
So they're saying that's for 7 additional students
Over the previous budget.
over the previous budget. And
No,
are these students, by the way?
Actually, no, it's 11, because it's 11 going out and bringing back 4. The 338, or 336 is to cover bringing back 4 elementary age kids who are out. So the net flow is 7 or 8, but that's 7 or 8, plus 4 more, right?
So let me back up. Are these students that we're talking about for tuition on student services, are these students already identified, or they're saying in case we get?
Oh, no. No. We may have that contingency, and I'll say contingency. There are certain situations in which the district may be notified or may gain knowledge of a potential student coming into the district. And there are situations that the district may be aware we have a case perhaps in due process, or a case going to due process, or we see a handful of students of whom, let's say a handful, 4 or 5, of whom we're doing our very best to keep in district, but it's possible in addition to the ones that I've already outplaced additionally this year, it's likely that in looking at those 4, that 1 or 2 of them will be outplaced. We had one that came through today that was included in that number that's not a student that as of yesterday we were outplacing, but we had knowledge that student was in the wings and could very well be and would likely be subject to outplacement, and it would be subject to our budget.
Listen, so Jeff, I understand what you're saying.
Yep.
But it is clearly not what I heard last week.
That's fair.
John?
So, are these numbers, I think I don't know if I got an answer last week. Are these numbers, increases included in the default?
Yes, I believe,
Yeah.
yep.
So they're in the default because they're required,
They're legally required.
legally required.
Hold on.
So that,
Didn't they say last week they were not legally required? Wasn't that one of the questions that was asked?
I thought the response was it's a new program, to that
That was
effect.
just on that program, on the in-district program end, right?
That was just on the 330, I guess, at the end of the day, it's on the 336. And do we have to do it or not? And it's a new program, and it isn't required,
Okay.
is what I
All right,
heard.
let me give back John the floor, just.
so the intent of the default is to do what's required to run the district legally with no additional. So
Correct.
if this was if it wasn't a required program, it would not be in the default, but it
Correct.
is.
Oh,
It's in the default.
If we're not in the default, then, and we didn't have the ability to bring the students back in, then we would have to address that in.
The
an outside tuition
750
line.
is included in the default, the 336 is not.
I believe it is. I'll just double check.
Thought it was.
Yep.
so why is the 336 in the default? I'll ask that one.
Well, there is a contract for it, and if we do not bring those students back into district, we will have to pay, and we will be legally required to place them outside the district. So-
This might have bearing on that. I believe this Compass thing is starting in January. So it's already going to be in this fiscal year.
Correct.
So you'd put it
We put it
in
in-
the next budget.
Got it.
We put it in 1920 budget, so that's why they can do it, put it in the default, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, and it's either take or pick. We're legally required to provide services, right? And if the services are completely outplaced, there's a price for that. And those students are not included in that number in favor of a slightly lower number in the district.
And it's the same thing as when we have outplacement because we don't have a position, somebody in a position that we have to pay for out services, but if we fill that position, we can bring them in, but you have to fund both because you don't know which one is gonna. So it's the same idea behind it, it's just much bigger numbers. But I just wanted to make sure that these were in the default because they're required obligations that we have to.
Lesser the two expenses, I guess, too. If we can bring the 330 in and not have to pay,
Right.
80,000 placement out, then.
Right. But we don't know if we'll be able to do that, and
With this is a big number, and I'm not sure if anybody's confused.
Thank you.
Does anybody want to revisit with the presenter that number with the description?
is she coming here tonight?
No.
Well, then you're not gonna.
Yeah, it's not gonna
But
happen.
this clarification was helpful, Jeff,
That's not gonna happen.
at least for me.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're not gonna get her the day after Christmas. I mean, these folks are on vacation.
Got it?
Oh, I guess the question is, Brian doesn't remember every line item. Did you put all this into the default that you know of?
It is in the default, yeah.
So obviously it's required then.
Okay.
Well, the 300 was in this budget, so it's remained in there, and then the 750 was required by law.
Yep, that's,
So basically, so that's where we're at. So if you wanna look at that 300,000 and say, hey, we don't need that, that's a different story. But the 750 is definitely by law, my opinion. Moving on.
Okay. So Todd, I'm gonna ask you, did you have other areas you want to look at?
I did. I wanted to look, Jeff, if we could, on the site improvement.
Bottom, page 16.
Actually, no, not site improvement, sorry. Support services, other.
What page?
It's the second to last page.
60.
Here's the economy.
Yeah, the, 2,900?
Yep.
I was just looking through these and wondering if you could explain the large jumps as compared to the actual expended for 2900.210 all the way down to workers' comp. If there's some reasoning behind, or are you why you're forecasting anywhere from 10 to 12% jumps from what was spent last year to what you expect on this budget?
It's a very fair question. And as a general proposition, I am expecting that if I have a position, that I'm going to be able to have that position filled. When we look at the expended, those factors, those employees were not hired, and we're certainly not hired for a full year. We had a massive drop off there. So when I look at these numbers, I look at what we have and what I intend to hire and have on payroll, and a lot of those lines are in direct correlation to payroll,
But you did diminish them on this sheet that you gave us.
to reflect any position funding that went down.
On this sheet here with the deductions that you found.
Yep.
You've got the, health insurance
Yep.
down 30, the FICA down 23, so those are, from what we're seeing in here, those are less,
A little lower.
a little lower.
Okay.
And
So like, I guess, here's a perfect example why I'm confused, I guess. You're expecting unemployment to triple from what we spent last year to what we might spend on the next school budget. What would give you an indication that that number was gonna go up based on, historically, it's never been any more than half of that?
that's a fair question. My budget for where
Could
we
happen,
have
of course. I mean, I mean, nobody can predict the future, but if I go through, if I go through non-curriculum, non-salary through the budget and compare to a 3-year trend, which again, that is not It's not rocket science. You can't base everything back on historical. Just based on some things that I've highlighted through here, it looks like a 12.5% increase from a 3-year trend to what we're predicting for, again, 18 months out. I realize that. I feel like there's some room in here
How much
to
money?
make up that 422.
How much money do you think you're looking at?
2 million.
2.5.
2.5 million?
No, I'm not saying cut it out.
I was
2.5.
gonna say.
I'm saying that 12.5%
Now you're
makes
talking,
up
Todd.
about now. I'm talking about things like supplies and in certain areas, and I'm just basing it based on what was spent versus what's being requested.
Well, the $68,000 is a good piece of that 400,000 you're looking for. I mean, to justify that.
No, I think, so you're telling me, if you look at the items that represent a 12.5% increase, it totals out to be about 2 million.
About 2.5 million.
You're not proposing cutting 2
No,
million.
God, no.
You're just saying,
No.
here's $2 million
Obviously, you need to
of stuff, you can attack some of
You
it.
need to budget for uncertainty. You need to
Yes.
budget for increases. You need to budget for what could happen, and there's no way to predict that. But if we're looking for areas where we don't want to touch capital, and we don't want to touch curriculum, and we don't want to touch
Salaries.
teacher salaries, it does seem like in certain areas we're being overly conservative and just. I mean, again, I get what you're saying about, group insurance, FICA, like for teacher retirement, that's up significantly from what it has been. It was down, then it was up, then it was down again. You can't predict it, but then again, how are you predicting it? Like, are you anticipating more people to retire? Because you don't really know, right?
No, that's not the factor for retirement. The factor for retirement is what our anticipated wages are.
Okay.
In that category, multiplied by the factor, by whatever their rate is. For teachers, it's one rate.
So because the contract just drove salaries up, that also drives.
Correct.
So I like where you're going with this, Todd. So what, quantify it, if you could.
Would you like to make a motion?
So Todd, just how many of the things that you identified has Jeff touched in what he handed out tonight on his corrections? Is there significant overlap?
There's some overlap. There's some overlap. I didn't touch salaries.
That's a good point.
I didn't really touch furniture necessarily. I didn't touch
2900 line
CIP.
Retirement.
I was looking at things more like, I got a good example here. It was one of the miscellaneous. Lines. Just trying to look for low-hanging fruit, Jeff. I think I already know the answer to this, but the 125,000 in miscellaneous expense under the other school board services, is that
What
including
line?
the 100,000 for, sorry,
The account number.
it's, the 2319?
Getting there?
What page you have it on?
Oh, my goodness.
10.
Oh,
Is it 10?
10.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was 100,000.
Is that for the transition costs?
Yes.
Built in there?
Yep.
Okay.
The rest of it's, you can see.
Okay,
it's
that's right, too. That was
up,
a
down,
transition.
but it's pretty level.
Let me say, whoa, oh, that thing, okay. Well, but while you're on the transition cost, I'm thinking we need to eliminate that from the budget anyhow. That really needs to be in a warrant article. Just- It's a purely one-time expense, hasn't happened, isn't gonna happen again.
Let's attack that one later on.
Well, you brought it up.
I didn't bring it up.
No, you didn't, Todd just did.
Well, I'm just trying to clarify where some large expenses are that are, greater than what we've seen in the past. Here's another one, security services. Function 2660.
Age,
Just find
Between
2660.
14 and 15.
Yeah.
you,
Specifically, supplies under the 2660.610. What drives that to go from 1,400, then 0, and then 40,000. Is that
So we're 2620, 610?
2660, 610?
2660?
Yep.
Okay. Twenty-six sixty, 610. Just getting there. Yep, so that's in relation to security, and typically if we have an initiative that would come out of that section of the budget, that's where it comes from. And so it really depends on where we're at budget-wise, in terms of, well, project-wise, in terms of utilizing that funding. If we can utilize a grant to satisfy the expenditure, we use the grant.
Okay.
And we've had that come up in certain cases. I know one of the projects that had been delayed a bit, I think under that line, would have been the exchange windows at the schools. You could not find a satisfactory option. And we found it, and we get it done, and that's complete.
Okay.
So it was delayed a couple of years, but I believe it was paid for out of a Homeland Security grant, which was nice.
So we actually have an expense in that row this year.
We will. Yep.
Because we voted for 40,000 pretty consistently here.
Yep. We will, and it's good that you mentioned that. That would be so that's a grant that we have a match for. So we have the match. That's the match.
We have a match.
We have a match.
Yay.
So they're not going to cover it 100%, but we have money to cover our section of it. And quite frankly, I don't know what the needs are going to be between now and then, what opportunities are going to come up, but I know,
It's funny, the new equipment line right under that, back 16, 17, 17, 18. I mean, they both ended with $7. They were exactly the same in 16, 17. And it jumped $30,000 on the supplies. And
yeah, kind of, it got moved to supplies.
so it got moved into supplies.
Yeah. And I believe that was through a default year, we had lost that new equipment aspect of it.
So Todd, let me just ask your strategy here. So you've got you did some work on that spreadsheet.
I did.
You come up with some numbers, and you're saying, so there's potential room to move.
What I was trying to identify were things that we typically spend, things that don't look like they're on a definitive increase over time, and then just trying to understand why all of those things together would have gone up 12.5% over an 18-month stretch from the time it was spent last year to the time that will be July 1st, 2020. 2020. Right?
So here's
So, like, okay, I get fuel. Fuel's gone up, that's clear. Natural gas has gone down, but we're going way up, right? 136, 148, dropped down 23,000. Now we're asking for more than we've ever spent on natural gas. Is there a reason why we think that's going to go up that much more than it has been over the years when you consider it's actually gone kind of up, down, up, down, up, down?
Yeah, you never know. I'm budgeting out quite a bit into the future, and I have to, 18 months out, and I'm trying to capture what those costs may be. And I know the budget committee in the past has taken a look at those numbers and said, yeah, we can appreciate that, and we'd like to spend less. We'd like to budget less. We'd like to appropriate less. So for oil, for example, the budget was put together quite a bit earlier than normal, and oil was one of the proposals that I had made to reduce. So I think, John, you would probably raise that.
I had asked you about oil last week,
Yep.
going up 38.
Yeah. And so when I went in and looked at where we were at in the current year, which, it's always good to take a look at, you get comfortable with the numbers as they are. So that was an area that I proposed bringing down.
Right. And electricity as well. Went 511, 538, back down to 520. Now we're asking for 600,000.
Right.
It seems like quite a bit of big jump there.
There is some room there. I have to gross budget. So if I think it might go up, I've got to account for it.
So the question is, can you find a couple $100,000 and without touching the capital?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we can.
So this is the dilemma we have. You've got all this information in front of you,
And you don't.
and we don't. And so we can sit here and compare them line by line against what Jeff has over there. Go ahead, Alan.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we vote on the 74, 125, 57. We're all in agreement, we want to do $2 million to the CIP.
Well, 1.5 to the CIP, and then
Then we have the 500's already in there, so that's 2 million. So that's the 74, 120, that's 100 and, that's 1.5 over the present default budget right now. That's it, so.
But we get it, but
So-
no, just bear with me. Ready?
Okay.
If, through Todd's work here, you still kept those capital numbers in there of, 1.5,
Right,
but we could lower other operating expenses that we may have over budgeted,
certainly.
Mm-hmm.
then it helps bring the number down a little bit more.
But I think where Alan's going though is it's the same difference, right? Where we're asking Jeff to do that. We want it to be 74. We want it to be this number without touching any more capital. So isn't that the vote,
Right,
That's it.
that's what I'm looking to put a vote on.
That's it.
right? And I mean, I can give you this as an example, Jeff, and
But no,
we can go back and forth and all that kind of stuff.
That $68,000 for workman's comp makes no sense to me, so that's $68,000 right there.
Well, I'm just saying, we all know
So-
that there's a guessing game that occurs, and you have to predict out into an unknown, right? And obviously, how much has been actually expended the 1 year, and then the next year, and then the next year, and then we have a gap because we're in a current year and we can't know those numbers, can't know what's expended this year. So it's a guessing game, but it is still data, and it is still a way to kind of try to project conservatively, but not too conservatively.
I got you, Tom.
And I feel like we're a little too conservative in some areas here. And all, yeah, like to Alan said, I'm for voting for that number without touching any more capital.
But just real quickly, didn't Jeff already tell us he can get us to the 74.120 by utilizing the money that was in the repair line, 4,600?
Correct, by,
But that's capital.
no, just capital, but
But
that,
that's not touching the 2 million though, am I correct in saying that?
it would be,
It would be.
it would be. It would be bringing it in line with, more in line with the CIP.
So you're
Right.
saying, leave that money in those accounts?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want 1.5 million, but I also want there to be enough for repair and maintenance, right? Like,
Right.
so I think there's other areas in the
There you
budget that
go.
aren't that, and that aren't teacher salaries, and that aren't curriculum where
Right, there you go.
we can finagle that extra
So-
442,000.
Well, hold on for a second. So to Alan's almost motion, if we say.
a motion, you just shut me down, I can't do a
No, because I want to make sure we get this right. If we told administration, go back, we want 74.126.
Yeah.
You make the necessary cuts where you feel need be.
I just want.
Don't touch the capital.
Yes.
That's it in a nutshell.
And then you don't have to go through, I mean, you can share this with Jeff,
There you go. Yeah,
but we don't have to sit here, on the fuel line and on, workman's comp. Jeff, did you?
And keep in mind, Mike, that basically historically, like what happened last year was a little unusual to see 4 million, but historically, you're gonna have a million,
Of course.
$1 million, $2 million. Of course you're gonna have that.
Which is good, we want that, we wanna make sure we're not flying the plane,
I understand.
On fumes.
well, yeah, we don't wanna do that.
So,
And this
And
whole,
Todd, and I, you're doing a great job with the numbers, but I'm telling you, doing this for time, over time, it's kind of, I don't know, because I'm not gonna say what I'm gonna say. What I'm saying is, we can give them a number, and if they come back to us and say, this is crazy, we'll listen to them, but I think if they can, that's where the budget should be, that's my opinion, without saying anything else.
Go ahead, Peter.
quick point. I really like what Todd's doing
do you think,
and
John?
some of the things you're pointing out. And this isn't I want to make sure everybody understands, this isn't a reflection of how Jeff does budgeting. There's energy things, the oil, natural gas, electricity. We had the same discussions with George when he was a business administrator. Okay, it's the natural, I believe, and I'm not saying this negatively,
Yeah.
but I think it's the natural not conservatism, it's a natural way a BA is gonna think. Very conservatively.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's cool.
If-
Rather have that than be like Methuen and run out of money.
Yep.
Okay.
If you
true.
predict that everything's going to rise and raise up 12%, everything would have to do that then. Do you know what I mean?
Across the
So
board.
if some things rise that much or more, it's going to level out.
Right.
So that's why I
Is it 12, it would be 12% though, so you're looking at the last year of spend, right?
yes.
So
Well,
if
I did a trend, so it was 12% over a 3-year trend.
Over 3 years, so if you were to look at 4 years, that's 3% per year.
Yes.
So you can't quite quantify it that way, but that would be about 3% per year.
Right.
It
So,
was more of a jump, though, actually. Well,
What I did was I did a 3-year average. Okay, 3-year average, and then
Then it jumped
and then the
12%.
ask.
Then
So
it
the
jumped
ask
12%.
for these items was 12.5% more
yeah, so it's
than
not,
what the 3-year average is. So I get it's not rock, and it's not absolute, but it does give me the idea that I think we can
maybe there's
find-
some room.
Yes.
So, and I will tell you certain things that change as the budget process develops and goes on. Natural gas, for example, well, I believe the CIP committee just approved some new boilers and furnaces that would be more energy efficient, that would be driven by natural gas. So these
Which
these
would
these are
could
things
save
that
us some
actually,
money.
yeah, that actually take me off the conservative platform a little bit, in the sense that I feel that, well, probably even if it goes up, I can absorb some of that increase based on less usage.
Also to that end, you
Consumption.
know they're putting natural gas lines down 125 now. Are they gonna come down Greenell?
they are?
I believe we have natural
Oh, they're
gas.
building them down
I
125
think
right
Natural
now.
gas right here.
Yeah.
They've got the natural gas right here.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, natural gas right behind you, yeah.
Because they were just installing new gas pipe, at
right.
least new gas pipelines.
Let's get back on track.
Park Atkinson.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to keep it focused. So Alan, I want to get you back to the point where you're almost ready to make a motion. But before I do that, I want to jump into the topic that Peter brought up and Brian just said no, which was, so if you're going to make a number, and in this budget is $100,000 for our departure expenses, isn't that correct?
Transition.
Transition expenses? So the question is, does it stay in here or does it not stay in here? And so if you make a motion for X amount of money, then it's staying in here.
You know, right now, we're $422,000 apart from the number, than Jeff's number.
Yeah, no, so,
Unless that's one of the things that Jeff takes some of the money away from.
Right.
Well, the school board's directed me to leave that money in.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice of them, but, you know, this is the budget committee, and while we really love their suggestions and welcome them,
Yeah.
it's kind of our vote.
It's your
That's
vote.
fine, that's fine. You can't touch the warrant article, so if someone wants to put a petition in, because you can't by law, you can't put it in that warrant article, so that's fine. Someone can do what they want.
so the school board has no intention of doing a warrant article.
Can't.
Can't.
It's all by statute, how you do that, write that petition to withdraw.
Let me ask you this, Brian. You've said before that if you need to move money, you can move money.
Yes.
If that line item was $1, is it not feasible that with all this extra money that might be laying around, because we might have a $1 or $2 million surplus, you could still cover that expense?
You'd cover any expense that we have to cover,
That's right.
no matter what it is.
So they're just hiding it
Right.
at that point.
And,
So-
and the 100, just so you know, Tom, was just
I know,
someone's
it's a shot in the
wild-ass
dark.
guess is
It's
what
a shot
that
in the
was.
dark.
That's
I know
all it
that.
was.
I know that. No
Whether
offense
it's
to you,
50
John.
or
I know
200.
it's a shot in the dark.
Who the hell knows?
But here's the way. Here's what I'm thinking. Right? Is we're budgeting money for something that's not been voted on, might not pass, might pass. We don't know that. We don't know it's going to get 60%. We don't. There's not really many other things I could think of where we're budgeting money
Okay.
for something that may or may not pass in the upcoming vote. So if we're looking for ways to trim money that isn't capital, and that isn't any of the big stuff, doesn't it make sense for that to be part of this 400,000, so that it's so that Jeff
I don't
has
disagree with
less
you,
money to come
but seeing how
off.
you already told me there was close to 2 million, I think you could clearly find 400 or 2 million. So I don't know where you
Well,
have,
it is 100,000.
that's my quick answer
Yeah.
to that. You'll have no trouble, just,
Well, it has to come from, I mean, obviously,
Yeah,
it would have to come from.
yeah, it comes someplace there, but you told me,
we
you
would have
you
to
know,
shorten our prediction on natural
Yeah.
gas, or shorten our prediction on workers' comp, or.
yeah.
I mean, what we've done in the past, Todd, is we've given them a number.
You got it.
know, and they come back. And if it comes back, we can't, I mean, like I said, if they come back and says, well,
But there's no comeback, tonight's your night.
that's true, this is it.
This is what I tried to get you to do, guys, a couple months ago.
Yeah,
Remember that?
yeah. So that's true.
'Cause it's almost like I knew this was
But
gonna
no,
happen.
but based on, if you wanna look at averages and if you wanna look at the averages, this is what we've done. We've come up with a number, that's the number, we're always apart, this is what we think the voters will stomach, and that's it.
So with the amount of potential, go ahead.
This is our last shot to do the bottom line,
Yes,
but we have added money before it, after public hearing.
That's a deliberative.
yes, yeah,
Also, could
yep.
we add that 100,000, so if it passes on the floor, could we add that money back in after the money we need for the,
Transition.
transition after the meeting?
Somebody could do that at deliberative.
Well,
Is that possible?
we
Brian?
won't, but we won't know if it passes the
Yeah,
voters.
yeah, yeah,
De-
yeah, yeah.
deliberative
They vote
isn't
after
a,
deliberative.
That's right.
deliberative is bottom line,
Oh.
so they'll just add a
No,
number
no,
at
that's
deliberative.
when's that vote?
But if it gets voted for, if it passes, that's the will of the people.
That's
If
a good
you
point.
leave it as a dollar, if you leave it as you leave it open, right? Isn't that you can't leave it as zero, or
Right.
you wouldn't be able to put anything. But if you leave it open,
The school board can
then,
move it.
then they know. Oh, hey, they all voted for it. They clearly want this, and then they can shift money to that line.
Well, you're obligated to, whether it's there or not, the district's gonna be obligated to
True.
pay for whatever
Right.
develops, if it's the will of the voters. I must have misunderstanding something.
You
So,
don't understand anything.
well, Alan, let me just go back to you. So if, I'm just thinking out loud, if Todd leaves the exercise he did with Jeff, we, as an area of where we can potentially go after. And I'm only saying this to you before you make a motion with the finite number.
I'll share it with all you guys too.
Yeah.
By the way,
Is there any thought of moving the 74-120 just down to an even 74? Because
That was my other thing too. I wanted to bring up,
Because
too.
if there's enough true savings, I mean, if Todd has highlighted, look at a ballpark of about 2 million, and we're not looking for 2 million, but 74-1, go to 74, it's enough wiggle room?
My only opposition is the psychology of a round number.
So you wanna do
And if we want people to
7399?
actually support this, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that.
7399. Well, that's the other thing too. I mean,
It-
it
it
doesn't
doesn't
have
have
to
to
be that
$100,000,
1.5.
it's the
Look at-
psychology of it. We all want a budget that we think the district can work with and that the public will support.
What I'm looking for is if there's more room to be conservative, and it's gonna drive the number down to be something less than 74-120, what could that number be in a motion? And so I'm just I made up a number, you're saying it's too round, but what I'm doing over here is I'm saying he's got the leeway in there to have potential.
Right.
And I do agree with you, Phil, that you put a number with a lot of zeros on it.
It's a problem.
Well, it implies we didn't put thought into it.
So,
frankly.
I just have one. So we're basically getting down to, default budget with capital added in.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
All right, so that's really what we're looking at here is,
Yes.
A
Yeah.
default budget with capital put into it with the potential of being a little bit more conservative.
yeah, I
Less
just was,
conservative.
I'm sorry, less conservative.
Yeah.
But that's,
And Michael's saying that the 7122, 74 120, why not 73 990 or 950 or whatever?
that looks contrived too.
yeah. So why don't you just say, take whatever the default budget is and then add capital to it and
That's what this number is.
that, right, I mean, that's all you're saying is, just,
But.
we're looking at these little
But we know,
numbers
but we're
and,
gonna have, but Brian says it too, we're gonna have between $1 and $2 million surplus. One and one and a half.
historically, you always have, Jeff even
Which is
said
good.
it, there's always leftover, there's employee
That's what we wanna
positions
run
that don't get filled that we carry through the year, hoping that they'll be filled, but, that, just like, when I talked to Mr. Fantasia about his, and he budgets for every team to go to the playoffs every year.
Right.
You know, I mean, it
comment on
probably
this.
won't happen. I mean, historically,
He's a
we
hustling guy.
always have positions there, but we don't want to cut out of the salary line, but we know there's going to be money in the salary line left over.
Right.
Which is, 2 million of that 4 million was probably salary.
John, do you have a number in mind that you feel comfortable with, sir? I'm a bottom line guy.
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at, you know, a big difference, we want the operating to pass. What's the difference between the operating and the default at this point? Capital,
Right.
you know?
1.5 mil.
Yeah. So we want the capital in there.
Which
So-
I mean, and the other thing is too, that is, if we get to 73.9 in that range, I think it's gonna be more applicable, I mean, the appetite for that would be better than the 74 120.
Yeah.
It's just, it looks better.
How about 74,030?
Hey,
Yeah, I'm just, so Jeff, if we gave you that number, that bottom line, that basically matches it, are you just gonna go through and make it look like the default budget?
No,
I
absolutely
mean,
not.
so there's enough difference in what's in
absolutely.
your operating compared to the default, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
What I might propose is, if you were so inclined, if that's where you think that the district would be adequately and well-funded, if you wanted to make a motion that that was your number, I've made some proposals. You have a number of things out there that I'm more than happy to go in and take a look at. And even after tonight's meeting, after tonight's CIP meeting, I'm even more comfortable now with natural gas, more than ever. I can absorb any increases, that sort of thing, and I can probably come up with some favorable changes. If you wanted to do that, I can then summarize those changes, send them out, right? So you'll vote on the number tonight. I'll send them out, send out a copy of the budget. If it looks good, we're done. If it looks like you want to come back and discuss some of those changes, then we'd have another meeting. I'd still reserve the 26th, and I think the 9th, January 9th is probably open.
Kathy and David are gonna owe us big time if we're able to save that meeting from happening.
True.
well, I never,
They bring the coffee.
I like that approach.
No, me too.
So we're gonna leave Jeff with the number. He's going to make it fit and send us basically this revised sheet.
With one caveat,
No touching the capital.
no, well, two caveats, no touching the capital, and the transition to $1.
No, I don't support that. So that's gonna need a vote.
That'll need a vote.
I'm good with that.
I mean, it's gonna, yeah, but
I make a motion to reduce transition cost to $1. Do I
I'll
have-
second that.
All right, so I want more discussion clarification. So I just want to get both sides of this. So Brian, you're saying legally?
I'm telling you right now, you can't do it, and so basically what you're doing by doing that is this committee is saying we don't support that.
Okay.
That's the transition. That's the
vote no.
translation.
Right.
This committee's saying we don't support that for the
the
district.
transition.
And I'm gonna tell you, people do. So any rate,
But we don't know until it's actually
find out.
voted on, Brian.
We'll
It
put a
does,
little-
it could
oh.
appear to be
We'll
disingenuous. I
put-
get your point, but I could see how that being
Wait,
reduced to one
you-
could appear to be disingenuous on our
And,
part.
and you have a school board committee with different people served on it. You have the town of Hampstead School Board supporting it. Both towns are supporting this action. And now the Timberland Budget Committee saying, we'll give you $1 towards it.
But we're also being told
Yeah.
that no one knows what the right number is.
We know it's more than $1.
And the voters haven't voted on it.
Yeah.
And no one can give any example of this group budgeting for something that the voters haven't.
I think Brian's talking optics here.
Yeah, I get the optics.
I think you're
but
talking optics.
The other part of the optics, though, are we're being asked to cut a significant amount out of the budget, right, as it stands now, with other caveats, which are not to touch any capital, and obviously we don't want to put the district in any kind of jeopardy when it comes to education or curriculum or anything like that. So if we're looking for low-hanging fruit, I mean, isn't everything on the table? Right? I mean, I'll share this with everyone. I didn't just highlight one thing on here. There's a lot of things highlighted in here. That's one of maybe 40 things. So, but I get what you're saying.
That's one of 40 things, and if you pulling 100 out of that, then you'd be looking to lower that thing down to probably 73 million.
Yep.
So
Yep.
if
And-
you want to use that rationale, you could really get down and
And
dirty.
it's not like you couldn't shift money to any of these other line
You know,
items as well,
so
so I get what you're
I
saying.
just don't see,
So,
whatever.
yeah, I mean,
Doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. Well, it's a motion, and we're discussing,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Sure, I get it.
John?
it was the number the committee came up with, to try and cover,
No, I'm not disputing
Yeah.
the number of 100.
yeah.
Thinking it belongs in the budget or not?
Could you go with $1?
So, the only way I support it as a warrant article would be tied to the actual one asking for withdrawal, because it would fund it at that level. Because we can't put money in that, if it passes, we wanted to make sure it was clear to the voters that this was what we were putting into the budget for funding that, if it goes forward. So it was called out as 100,000. It's in a line item specifically allocated for those.
Well, it's allocated for miscellaneous right now.
But we know,
Yep.
we're telling it, the school board has said that that's what that line is. We've said it here in this meeting, so it's known that that's what that is. So I don't feel that putting it down to $1 is truly representing what we're asking for that line.
Why is that line item 125 and not 100, Jeff?
It was 25 historically for the miscellaneous. The board needed a study or had some other need that came up, we would always reserve an amount in that account historically. So if you look back on the trend on that, you'll see that it's had some expenditure in there, some appropriation in there for years. So we just took the 25, I believe it was in the prior year budget, and then added the 100. And quite frankly, even if that were to occur, the money probably wouldn't even stay in that line. It would get distributed to wherever it was supposed to be distributed within, but it's a placeholder for it, right? I think it's.
That's all it is, I agree.
Yeah.
So it's an appearance.
And it came out of the committee. I supported it on the committee at the time, so as a member of that committee coming back, that was the agreement with the school board of where they were gonna put it, and I just don't support removing that or dropping it down to $1, just because of the work on the committee and the recommendation from that committee.
In the lawyer representing that committee.
Yes. We anticipate some type of legal out of that, and there will be, if it passes, as well as cost for employees coming in to help start up a new SAU.
So like anything else, if you keep it funded at that full amount and it doesn't get all used, the school board can move it. Correct?
Yeah. I know I seconded it. Can I ask you to amend your motion, Peter?
2,
Lower it to 100,000.
sold.
Oh, wait a minute, you're only taking 100,000 out.
I thought I said 100,000. Oh, no, I said lower to
lower to
$1.
$1.
So he's saying don't lower to 1, lower to 25.
I will clarify how I perceive the motion.
Sure.
And I had your motion as motion to reduce transition cost in school board other expense, 123,19,890 to $1 from the current 100,000. So the current line itself is 125.
Right.
Within that line is 100,000 for those transition
Okay, so,
costs.
Right.
I didn't think it would zero. I didn't think it would put the whole line at $1. I just thought that it would.
so do you
take
want to
it-
amend it, Todd, or just leave it the way it is? I'm good either way.
Well,
Has the same net effect.
I'm thinking, I think I'm in agreement that the optics don't look good, and frankly, if someone doesn't like that line specifically, they have more than enough chance at deliberative to do something about it. And there's still time somebody might put a citizen's petition out there, so. I'm probably not, I'm not gonna, I'm definitely gonna vote no for reducing it to $1. I'm just looking at it as that miscellaneous line hasn't really spent 25,000 over the last 3 years. So I'm of the opinion that maybe it doesn't need to be 125,000 total.
Well, it spent 40,000, 17, 18.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a consultant type thing.
Yeah.
So we had the transportation consultants, then we had the strategic plan consultant, and
So are you gonna look to make a motion to reduce it?
25,000?
Well, I mean, there's already a motion out.
Well, he's got a motion to lower it $100,000 off of the 123.
$99,999.
Yes.
Well, the line is 125, so you want to take,
100 out.
Actually, you
Nine-
can- you
nine-
can safely take 100,000 out.
Okay.
Because it's already
25.
20, league
Okay,
25, yeah.
in there To fund the line, okay.
but I've got the motion currently.
So just read it one more time.
Motion to reduce transition costs in school board other expense, line 100-2319-890 to $1 from the current 100,000, made by Peter Bealow, second by Todd.
Can you just read that?
It sounds messy. Sounds messy because it's 125, it's not 100.
No, within, that line's 125.
Yeah.
Those transition costs within that line are only 100,000.
Yeah.
But I could even maybe clarify that the line itself would be now, that line now would be, total line would be
25,000.
$1,001.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
I mean, it's a friendly maybe amendment that I can just add on.
Let's just reduce the line to 100, to 25.
That would help.
Yeah, what happened to the days we used to get water at the table?
Barely get name tags tonight, I'm telling
You
you.
got a box of Joe over there.
You know, I gotta go.
All right, hold on. So Jeff, just read it one more with the amended.
Motion to reduce transition costs in school board other expense, 100-2319-890 to $1 from the current 100,000. Then in parentheses, line will be $25,000. Or line, I could put line as reduced to
Or
25,000.
leaving line at,
Yeah.
Okay.
reducing line 2.
Yep, leaving line at.
Okay.
leaving Line balance.
Is everybody clear on that motion?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Now, I might have to do a roll call, might be helpful.
Want to do it by
Try.
person?
Oh, you're gonna have to do a roll call.
Okay. You can call the vote.
So if we go forward with the motion, it's going to lower that line item
Right.
down to 25,000.
Yes, we'll be
20,000.
lowering the motion. We'll be
Okay.
lowering it.
All right, so just keep your hands up in case it's not unanimous, Jeff's gonna have to do a tally here. All right, all those in favor of taking this motion that says, motion to reduce transition costs and school board other expenses to $1 from the current 100,000, leaving a line balance of $25,001. Made by Peter Bealow, second by Todd McCormick. All those in favor?
Well, that wasn't that easy.
1, 2. Okay, and then all those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I can't say it.
I was convinced otherwise.
Okay,
See what you did, Todd?
I know, right?
so
Horrible.
I wanted to get that one out of the way.
Yes, sir.
So now if we go back to what
Well-
you were trying to say about 40 minutes ago.
Well, I'd like to rescind my motion because I think
You never even made a motion.
I never really made a motion, but I don't know what the appetite of the board is, because my number I came up with, building up from 68, doing my math and adding the drivers in, I came up with a little lower number than that. I would come up with like 73.9, 73.8, 70, 57, whatever it was. But that's my math, and that's why I was interested in talking to my young friend here, how he came up with default. So using that,
What's he burning you up for?
well, 'cause no, I really, that was a number I'd written last week. When we were talking, I was writing down all the drivers, and I was using the operating budget of 68 million and all that, and putting in a reserve number, that type of thing. So I came up with 68, 9,
68?
I'm sorry, 73, 8. I can't read, I got it scribbled over a bunch of times.
Make
But
sure you get
73, 8,
that.
in that range, I came up with.
Okay, but we're not doing it that
It's not
range.
an argument.
Well, no, but I went from the ground up.
No, no.
Instead of just going, just taking his recommendation, I didn't really know where it was coming from. So using that, but using the 72,620 as the number, you get 1.5 for the, you're gonna add the 1.5 in, you come up to 74,120. Is the appetite on this board less than that number? If not, we should just vote on the 74,120, 557, and just call it a day.
Look, you can do that and call it a day, or you can take some of the work that Todd has done. It's got a scope of, X, and you can say, here, go find a little bit out of that X. He's got a scope of 2 million. Go
That
find,
would bring us 2 million from what, from the 70?
no, don't say the word 2 million.
From the
He's got a
74.5
scope, a
so he-
potential.
Now he's down to 73,543. Is what you're telling me.
Let's just say I identified 2.6 million in what I consider to be low-hanging fruit. It might not necessarily be low-hanging fruit.
Right.
Right. But
Right.
even if it's 10% accuracy, he's got 260,000 right there. If just 10% of his low-hanging fruit they can grab, there's another $250,000 right off.
Which means what? You're looking at
We're still not-
73.9 or something, they're looking at?
So right now, in order to get to that 74,120, I'm looking for 422,580
Correct.
additional. So to go below that to 70, was it 73,870? It would be another
Well, no, Brian just said 73.9.
Yeah,
73,900.
I just took $250,000 off that, that's all I was doing.
Yeah, so it's another 220 in addition to that. So from, aside from what I've already offered, we'd be talking about 643,137.
So you're saying about another, what was that number, 600?
643,137.
So just picture this. So if we ask Jeff and his team to potentially go after 643,000, Todd's got this low-hanging fruit bucket over here of 2.5.
So what would that bring us to, young Michael?
He just said
73,900.
73.9.
And if you don't like what I'm proposing in terms of where those specific cuts come from, you've reserved a time to meet.
Correct. Everybody follow what I'm saying?
I do.
Yes.
I like that number much
December
better.
26th.
But we reserved a time, we don't know if we'll even have a quorum.
Well, so
I just wanna make sure.
before we
that-
go on,
Well, it is a meeting on the books.
It
we have a
is.
meeting on the
It's not like a
books,
special
and we
meeting.
also have.
We got 3 people not here on a regular meeting, so.
Right. And we also have, looking to keep the January 9th.
Well, we don't keep it, that's not part of your,
I'm sorry. I'd like to put January 9th out there as a just in case.
Well, public hearing is on the 16th.
Yeah.
When do we have to have the budget posted for that, and it can't change?
1 week before, right?
you know,
So the 9th is,
It,
1 week would be it.
that's the lock-in day anyway, so.
See, what day of the week is the 9th?
I think it's a Thursday.
It is a Thursday, yeah.
It's your normal meeting night in
Yeah.
step with,
Sure you
Right.
wanna, I wouldn't do that, Mike.
but you don't have that night.
We have to.
No. What I mean by that is weather and everything, that's mathematically a last date before.
I don't want to use it. I don't want to use it.
Okay, I'm just
I think
saying
he's
that.
saying maybe the
I'm
8th.
just saying,
And
there you
that way
go,
the
the
9th
8th,
could
because
be-
if you could have a snowstorm, and all of a sudden you get boxed out
Right.
Yeah.
by Mother
Okay.
Nature.
Yes.
You've been there before,
Yeah.
as a board.
Yeah,
All right, well, let's get that one down later, because I do want to put in another tentative meeting as a backup to the backup.
Fine.
Okay.
Okay. We'll do that one after we come up with a number. Let's work on a number that we can give Jeff and call it, hopefully, almost a night. And then
Yes.
he's gonna go identify and mark up this list. We'll look at it, and this is really what's gonna dictate whether we're gonna go meet again.
I will say, I will take a look at your list. It is, quite a bit from where I'm at right now, looking at it
It'll get
already. That's quite a jump. I really don't want to get into staffing.
So I'm not that
either.
far off.
He's not touching
Going
staffing.
round down.
No,
He's
no.
not touching curriculum.
you'll have to change your email and phone number, because you'll be getting a lot of calls from both sides.
Todd, are you gonna be putting this in a motion?
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion to instruct Jeff
I like it already.
to bring our number down to 73,975,000 without touching capital.
I'll second.
73.
975 even,
Yeah.
without touching capital.
now, before you stop, before we ask for a second, do you want to have something in there that says if he meets this, then this board is good with that number? Or do you want to force a meeting on that in
If
January?
he brings it down, we're good. I just
No.
know we're gonna
Hold
go
on, hold
forward.
on, bear with me, hold on.
We don't need to codify that.
Peter, hold on, everybody, please. Could we just leave the motion as it is, and then do a second motion
Okay.
that says what you're saying?
Okay, fine.
Keep this motion clean.
Fine.
And
So the motion is,
motion to move, I'll say motion to move, motion to,
Struck Jeff.
well, why don't we? why don't-
demand.
I think you had,
Put that in
you had something to the effect of motion to bring the budget down to, something to that effect, right?
To instruct Jeff to bring the proposed budget down to 73,975,000 without touching capital.
Would it be cleaner, it would be on my end, to say motion to approve the budget at 73,975, changes to, changes to be made without impacting capital?
Yes.
Yep.
I'll amend the motion.
And
I'll
correct,
amend my second, that's fine, that's good.
You're changing,
Clean.
you're putting the word approve versus bring down or reduce.
Because bringing down and reduce suggests that we're gonna be coming back to meet again on it.
Yeah.
If you approve it, you can always come back and reapprove something else.
Right.
And the reason that I don't think that you should just blanket say, well, just make the changes and come back, is because you may not like the changes that I make. Reserve for yourselves the right to come back if you need to.
To approve and approve, okay.
Okay.
Motion to approve the budget at 73,975
Touch and go.
without changes
The capital.
to current 4,200 and 4,600 account lines.
Yes.
So after you re-edit that all over again,
Now,
all right,
should I read it one more time?
read it one more time, and then if there's no more questions,
So it will be motion to approve the budget at 73,975 without, I guess, further changes, or without changes to the current 42 and 4,600 account lines.
Yes.
Made by Todd McCormick, second by Brian Boyle.
okay. That's the motion on the floor. Does anybody have any questions? Because if there's no questions, then I'm going to call for a vote. I see no questions, so all those in favor of this motion as read, raise your hand. Hold it up. So you've got unanimous.
Guys like to keep it easy, you know?
Okay, so now, Peter, what you were saying, we don't need to say anymore?
Correct.
Because he already put the word approved.
correct.
So, going forward, so Jeff, just so I have your attention, you're gonna produce a revised list of one of these that will show us how we're gonna get down to that 73,975, and you'll distribute it to us without conducting a meeting through emails. People are going to what? Send back their feedback like yes, yes, yes?
I don't know.
Can't do that?
It's approved.
I think,
We're gonna get a new one of these.
I don't think we have to say anything.
I think that if
Okay.
you have a problem, you will say something.
Right,
For example,
right.
I would like a meeting.
Okay, let's
And
do
they have to
that.
get hold of you only, not copy everybody.
Okay.
Right.
So let's do that. So Jeff will send out the revised budget, meeting this 73,975. If you
This
have-
would be nice as well, just to see where
Yes,
they. can
yes,
put
yes,
some of
yes.
it, but-
Yeah.
Yep. And if there's questions, send Jeff and I an email.
Just in time.
It's awesome.
Oh, well, come on in for the record. That way you can say that you've
It's
participated.
awesome.
Are you here for delegates and individuals?
Lose your car or something?
Yes.
Concert went over.
So you can put down that Julie has arrived.
Julie has arrived.
Julie has about 30
Closer.
questions
She's
to
a
ask
closer.
about the budget.
Yeah. Julie's
So
arrived.
Julie, here's what we have just done. We talked about the budget, and we just made a motion and approved it unanimously to get our proposed budget at 73,975. Jeff has some homework to do, so it's 73,975 exactly.
Okay.
Jeff is going to revise. He gave us a list tonight showing where he made the cuts. The cuts he's got right now get us to 74,120.
Okay.
but this board has asked him to get it to 73,975. So he's going to revise that list that John just showed you?
All right.
Change that right now, we're 75,543.
Yeah,
74,
correct.
Yeah, 33.
So you're going to get that document from Jeff. And if you have any questions, like you don't like it, then we'll have another meeting. If not,
But that also includes the improvement, the capital improvement of like $2 million.
yes.
The,
No change.
That number.
No
what he's gonna
change
do
to
is,
that.
he's gonna lower it down there without touching
Capital.
those lines.
Oh, okay, all right.
So that's the 2-hour snapshot in 5 minutes.
That was it.
All right.
Okay.
And I will share with the board that if it becomes, so we are talking about the difference between the 543 right now and that, it's still another, what, 600,000, right?
Correct. It's the 422 plus, Todd, you came up with another, we said 10% was roughly 260 on top of Jeff's 422 is about 680.
So Jeff, do you have what Todd had been working on?
No, I have
Copy
no-
that, that'd probably be good as a
So,
reference to.
okay, so let me back up. Todd,
Yes.
would you be willing to share that document with the entire board
Yes.
and
Make it
Jeff.
public record, yes.
make a public record?
So if I get to a point that it is uncomfortable, I will give you a call.
Because some of Todd's, that 10% could be in that 422 already.
Yeah.
It could
Some
be
of it
over.
could,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter?
Question, I guess for Jeff, is from now to the end of the year, when's this place open? Rest of this week, hopefully tomorrow?
Yep,
Next week at all?
Monday, Friday, for the most part.
Monday and Friday next week. Okay, I'm just trying to wrap my head around when he's gonna have a chance to work on this.
It's all Christmas Day.
Yeah,
So,
whatever it takes. That's his
visions,
motto.
visions of school budgets dancing in his head.
All right, so the next thing I want to do is we have a meeting scheduled for Thursday, December 26th. And we should get one on the books before January 9th, just in case.
Before, on, or by.
Because you're saying the week before the public hearing is the 9th, so we should go something before that because Mother Nature can be mean to us.
It's happened before.
So the 8th would be a Wednesday? Who's got their calendar up?
I do.
Yeah, the
The
8th would
8th
be a
is
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
6th
8th
would
is a
be
Wednesday. But we don't know if this room is available.
Correct.
Or that one.
We'd find another room.
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
high school
Yeah,
Yeah,
library.
listen,
It wouldn't take that long. It's only-
okay, let's not worry about it. So the small details of where, we will find another room.
Yes.
Because that date would be extremely critical, if need be.
Yeah, I won't be
So-
here, but,
Pardon me?
I won't be here, but I'm just,
Okay,
everybody else can be here.
understood. So Jeff, can we
You're on vacation.
reserve that formally?
That week?
On what date, on the 8th?
The 8th.
Let me see if I'm available.
You sure you don't want to do it the day before that, just in case of a snow day, in case we do want to meet?
We have the 9th set already.
No, we don't.
I thought the 9th was.
That's
I'm sorry.
Tentative.
It says tentative, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well,
We want to do one before in case
yeah,
you
let
get
me ask you
snowed
a
out.
question. So it has to be done by the 9th.
Mm-hmm.
Does it have to be posted by the 9th?
That's a good question.
If so, if we walk out of here at 9:30 or 10.
Yeah.
We gotta do
Not
it,
much
so
time
we
to
should do the
post.
6th, we should do the Monday.
No, we're not doing the 9th. We said if we do the 8th, we can even do the 7th.
So all I'm saying, I
Leave enough
think you
leeway.
I think it needs to be no later than the 7th.
That's
Because
fine.
If it's the 7th and we push out because of a snow day,
Yeah.
okay, but if
Good
it's
point.
the 8th, we push out to the
Okay,
9th, but
I'm
we
gonna
can't get
agree
it
with you.
posted.
If we're gonna put a backup meeting, let's give us some leeway for unknowns. So Jeff,
Are we gonna have a quorum though? So he's not gonna be here.
we're
On the
gonna,
9th, but
if we have to do dial-ins and stuff like that, we'll make it work. Let's think on the positive side.
I'm just saying, I'm just
Think.
spitballing.
So Jeff,
That's what I do.
the 7th?
That's a Tuesday.
Is that a Hempstead School Board meeting?
I don't know, because they're meeting on the 6th.
Oh, they're meeting on Monday, the 6th.
They are meeting on the 6th.
Likely not.
I believe, that's not set. Believe that that's when they're gonna be meeting.
Well, if they don't have anything set for the 7th, then we should occupy it.
He's checking right now. So what we can do as he's checking, we can make it the 7th. If Jeff runs into obstacles, I'll have him reach out to us.
Yeah, that's fine.
It looks fine?
No, it's fine. If that's the case, then I'll let you know.
So instead of, because let him go check the calendars with everything else that he may go learn. So let's push for the 7th. If Jeff, for some reason, says that night is not free, we'll have to work on the date either earlier. Like I said, I'm in more and more agreement. We don't want the 9th. The 8th's getting too close to the 9th, especially about when you have to post.
That's the other thing. You have to post the 9th, you can't post it at 9:30.
Can, but.
You can.
It just
that's not gonna
doesn't,
do it.
okay.
Or 9:16.
We don't need to make a motion for this meeting, no?
I'm just, for the record, general consensus, the board would hold open January,
Yeah, the chair can call a meeting.
January 7th,
Yeah.
Tuesday, January 7th,
2020.
2020.
With a backup of the 8th, if it's a snow day.
I assume that you're gonna be okay canceling the 26th formally?
I don't want to cancel it just yet.
Okay, but we would be looking for that communication from you, or from me. You'd have to let me know if you wanted to do that.
Alan,
We never really discussed, what if our proposed budget doesn't get passed and it goes to default? Are we gonna have something out there if they wanna pay for the, well, it
yeah,
doesn't make
well.
sense.
You mean warrant article? you
A
mean?
warrant article for the,
It's not yet. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about it here tonight. You'll decide if you're gonna recommend it, any warrant articles, many warrant articles that get in front of you, you can recommend, not recommend.
let's say, like, ask for $1 million or something at the time, we need something we cannot just go with the $500,000.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm just saying, you don't,
You should do a citizen petition.
I mean, so if we don't, I'm just saying, that's something we can do at the
we'll have a
deliberate.
warrant article.
We can't, can we? We'd have to do it before then.
Citizens petitions, yeah, they're on.
Isn't it really in the bailiwick of the school board
I
to
think
decide?
I think they are
Just said
planning
so.
on doing that.
Yeah.
yeah,
You are gonna do something?
That's the
Okay.
plan. That's
All
the
right.
plan.
let's
Okay.
regather here. So,
I'm good then.
Jeff, can you just read that last,
Here for you.
I did my job. I'm
Hold
moving
on. Folks to my left? Jeff, could you just read that?
General consensus, the board would hold open Tuesday, January 7th, 2020, with a backup of the 8th, if it's a snow day, for the budget meeting.
All right, so I'm just gonna role play forward chronologically. We get this list from Jeff. We're satisfied. I'm gonna propose we don't meet on the 26th because availability. And then we'll reserve our next meeting if we have to on that 7th or 8th.
Only if we don't like what Jeff sends us.
Correct.
Right.
Yep. Everybody good?
Yep.
And you'll all let me know, send an email to Jeff, Todd, myself, your feedback, hit thumbs up, or you feel that you need to have another meeting.
And if somebody doesn't respond, you will assume that they're in favor.
That's correct. Sound fair? We'll update you all, it's Julie.
Julie's actually been watching the whole
I'll
meeting
watch.
outside, waiting for you to take the vote, and then she's like, oh, they voted, great,
All right.
go ahead now.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Did you get this?
Todd?
Todd and Alan to adjourn at 9:19. There we go. It was unanimous.
Again,
This was us, yeah.
keeping it easy for me. Double duty.
Is this
So
the
Julie.
things I have?